Hello and welcome back to my craft room. I'm very excited today because I've decided today's the day I'm going to start my new Millefiori inspired project. I've been kind of brewing this for quite a long time, doing some doodling and work-up sketches and a lot of thinking about how I'm going to do this, and now is the stage where I want to translate all my sketching and doodling into a slow stitched project. It will probably end up being made into a really fun bag. I want it to turn into something I can use and enjoy. And I've got as always, I've got this amazing picture in my head of how it's going to turn out, but we'll see where it takes us. Let me show you where I'm at, what I've been thinking. You may or may not have seen previous videos, and I think I did it in a live stream as well, where I've been doing the doodling and kind of working up towards it. So Millefiori, if you don't know, I'm sure everybody does, the Millefiori technique involves, I don't know a lot about it, but it involves they make these long glass rods all layered together to create patterns, and then they slice them into beads, and they set the beads kind of and fuse them together with more glass so that they can create bowls and paperweights and things. Almost everybody, you would definitely recognise the paperweights if you saw one, I'm sure. And there's beautiful Millefiori beaded jewellery and things like that. And also the paintings of Gustav Klimt. He also features Millefiori as well. And I always love the beautiful rich colours and patterning in his paintings, and a lot of them seem to be Millefiori inspired. I even found a fabric print that was called Klimt Millefiori, I think. So yeah, that's where I've been kind of taking my inspiration from, and I've been working in my colour inspiration journal, which is something I like to do when I'm working towards an idea. So let me show you where I'm at. This was one of the sort of more finished doodles I did. I used a lot of gold in this one, inspired by Klimt. There's another one in here somewhere. There we are. That's another one. So this one was watercolour paints and paint markers. This one was spirit markers and then paint markers. It's one of my favourites actually. I love the colours here, and I was starting to sort of refine the sort of doodle patterns, sort of probably around 6 that I really enjoy using variations of. I'm sure that is there. There's yet another one. Again, playing with the same idea. I do love these colours, and then I tried sort of reining the colours in a little bit, but I didn't enjoy that so much. So one of the things that I was experimenting with this one, I started off with them being all black. The spaces in between were all black, which I quite liked, but then I wanted to try the gold. On that one, you can see where I've started to fill in black, and I do think the black sets it off well. Of course, in the real Millefiori, quite often it's clear glass in between, or a paler colour glass in between. That one I haven't decided yet, obviously. This was probably my very first doodling, experimenting with it, and these are the sort of handful of doodles that I've been using throughout, or different adaptations of them. Just very, very easy to do. I want to be using all different size circles rather than regular size circles, so if I just draw a few circles here. So the simplest one of all is just concentric circles of different sizes. And sometimes they might go a bit, might not be completely centrally aligned. They might be a bit off, which I quite like. Also the spiral, where usually with that I start with a circle in the middle and then spiral out. I quite enjoyed doing this one where you just take little bites out of the edges of the circle. All of these were based on looking at real Millefiori beads and just kind of abstracting from them, really. So with that one, I liked that one because you could adapt it, so I could fill in the centre as well with a different colour. I could put different colour on the outside. And I really tried to think about how they would actually put these Millefiori beads together, the rods together that they slice up. I've watched a lot of people doing similar things with polymer clay as well. So if you took that same idea with the bites, but you sort of extend the bites in more towards the centre, make them more triangular like this, you get a completely different sort of effect, but it's the same thing. You could also very easily, just instead of leaving a line here, just come out from the same point, do that over and over again, and you end up with like a star. So I just did all sorts of variations of that. Millefiori actually means 1,000 flowers. I love that name. I think it really sums up how they look. Of course, I had to include some actual flowers as well, and this is my favourite kind of flower, just to do a rough 5-pointed organic shape like this. And again, I could then elaborate by putting a ring around it. I could put a centre in it. I could take a piece out the middle of each one, like a little drop shape. And these all to me are reminiscent of the actual Millefiori beads. Oh yeah, another one was to just make a ring like that, and then divide up the outside sort of evenly, so that's sort of going halfway across, then quartering it, then dividing that, and again, and then I could divide each section again. That's again quite a and I could put more rings inside as well. I also did some with kind of flower petals like this. I wasn't so fond of these, but you do always see a few in Millefiori pieces, so I probably will include some. And I quite like dotting in the odd few, just a little heart shape. And I think with these I might make them deliberately a little bit skew, because they sometimes are, because of the nature of how these Millefiori beads are made. They might just, the shape can sort of just warp a little bit, I think. So yeah, they're my kind of basic shapes that I was inspired by doing my doodling. And then I started working on these different ways that I could interpret this in a stitched format. So I can take circles of fabric and stitch on them, couch down a spiral or chain stitch or whatever, simple stitches in a spiral. I can layer up circles of fabrics. I can do some lazy daisy stitching, that will emulate the flower ones. I could do some pistol stitches where you get the long straight stitch and the kind of French knot at the end. I can also layer these up together, so I could do the concentric circles and then do a pistol stitch over the top or whatever. I like this idea of a blanket stitch where the legs of the blanket stitch are radiating towards the outside. Christine covered this way of using blanket stitch in her Dictionary of Stitches series, and also I really loved the way Lucy Parry used it in the swap square that she sent to me. I loved that effect, so I've been using that myself ever since. It's one of the lovely things about swapping those squares, is that we get all these little ideas and things from each other. So that's a shape that I would like, and again I can layer that up. You know, I could put that, I could stitch that over the top of my layered circles. Dorset buttons are another way of making a circle in a kind of stitched format, so I really want to explore that. Just normal buttons, which I can stitch around the outside. You can actually, I've seen people do, I've not tried it myself, but you can actually stitch into the button and then radiate the stitches outwards from the holes in the button. So I might have a little experiment with that. Shisha work, I love doing shisha work. I find it so satisfying and fun to do, but I need to practice it, so this is a good chance. And you can do some really elaborate patterns with shisha work, so I should be doing a lot of that. One thing that I've done this is my Sew for the Soul book I did some years ago now. Her surname left me for a second there. Yeah, Anne Brooke, textile artist. Anyway, she did this Sew for the Soul book project a few years back. I'm sure it's still on her channel if you wanted to look it up. And she gave us a prompt for every week. This is one of my first slow stitching projects, and one of the things we did, I think she used wire and didn't have any wire, so I was experimenting with other things, and inside there is an old ponytail O. Didn't end up very circular, but it's fine. Then I thought, I quite like that idea, so I took another one and made it more sort of obvious. But there you can see here, I've always been fascinated with circles. You can see here I was playing with the idea of different ways of creating circles. Prompts, I think we were looking at negative space here and making and looking through, making apertures to be able to look through. There's an example of that pistol stitch that I was talking about. I have some beautiful threads. I've been hoarding some lovely things that Jen sent me. I'm going to be using some of those. I've got some lovely scraps from Bazaar, and I'm going to combine them with the scraps I got from the bougie scraps that I got from Megan Crook textiles as well. So it'll be mostly silks from Bazaar, and I'll show you in a minute, and the little sort of sparkly bits I got from Megan Crook. And then Suffolk puffs, or yo-yos as they are in other parts of the world. I just love making these things, and it's nice to have an excuse. And I'm going to experiment with different ways of doing them. I'm going to use all different sizes. I want all my circles to be all different sizes. So here I've just jotted this down and just put closed puff. So this is just a normal, you know, a Suffolk puff made in the normal way, but it'll probably be embellished and stitched into. And then I'm going to have a go at doing different things, like leaving the edges frayed instead of turning them under, leaving them open like this, and inserting a contrasting lining, that kind of thing. I'm going to have a go at using plastic rings here just to stitch down and stitch over, enclosed within the layers, and almost use as a kind of almost like a mini embroidery hoop, if that makes sense. It will make sense as I go along, I promise. She says confidently. So those are some of the ideas I've got for kind of interpreting this idea in a stitched form. Let's go back to another example of playing with circles. There we go. Again, I hadn't thought of the Millefiori thing at this point, but I was thinking about different ways. If this was to hang up some stamps and stamp on fabric and embroider into them. Another thing I could try, actually, I could try stamping. Let's just jot that down there. Stamped circles, and then stitch into them. Have I missed anything there that I thought of? No. So these are some of my silks from Bazaar. Absolutely gorgeous. They come in these Bazaar scrap packs. Let me just say about Bazaar scrap packs a minute. I'll come back up here. So Bazaar is a company very dear to my heart. I've been buying from them for a number of years now, and I have got to know them all there really well. Especially Joe, the owner of the company. They're just such lovely people. I love the way they work. I love everything they stand for. Anyway, these scrap packs, they import all kinds of things from India. They don't just kind of sit here and import them. Joe goes over there and sources them and has a really good working relationship with the people over there. And they've known each other for years. I'm so excited that in a couple of weeks now, it's only a couple of weeks away, I'm going down to Sussex for one of their big summer events. I'm going to be there for the Bhangra night. I'm just so looking forward to it. I love Bhangra music and the dancing, just love it, and the food that they're going to do, and it'll just be lovely to meet all the team. Anyway, that's Bazaar. I will put a link to Bazaar below, and they do these scrap packs. That's how I first came to know them. It was some years ago now at Ali Pali. They did one of the shows, knitting and stitching show or something, and I saw these scrap packs they had on their stall, and I bought a couple just to see what they were like. Took them home straight away, ordered 4 more in the other colours. I was just in love. They also make clothes and things. They sent me this top, which is, I love, absolutely love it. It's beautiful. I wear it all the time. But it's the scrap packs that I love, and just recently they've introduced some other kinds, some more fancy scrap packs as well. They're brilliant to play with. They're unpredictable. What you're going to get is unpredictable. It's usually a mixture of natural fabrics like silk and cotton. You get some velvets, you get some beautiful pieces of brocade and patchwork and things. There'll be bigger pieces, smaller pieces. They're all reclaimed from the textile industry. So there'll be pieces of garments, some will be offcuts, some will be, perhaps garments that went wrong that would have had to be trashed otherwise. The textile waste is a huge problem. I'm doing my little bit to help. And they've just become so popular, I think, from a lot of us using them because they're just so perfect for slow stitching products, that Joe now goes and sources scrap, material specifically to go in our scrap packs, which is wonderful. If you wanted to order from Bazaar, this is why I thought I'll stop and say it now. Last time I did a video and mentioned Bazaar briefly. I put the link in the description, but I didn't bother saying all of this because I felt I say it so many times I don't want to bore people. But then I always get the questions after, I tried to order and I couldn't. If you want to order and you are not in the UK, don't worry, they will send anywhere in the world, but do not try to put your order through in the normal way on the system. It won't let you. The system will come back and say, sorry, we don't send to your country. What you have to do is decide what you want. So say you wanted to buy 2 scrap packs, email them and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, I live in wherever you live, Canada, America, Australia, wherever it might be. I'd like to buy so-and-so. Please give me a quote for just ask them to quote you first for the postage, because it will cost more for postage. And then if you're happy with that, they will invoice you. I think they send a PayPal invoice and you pay that, and then they'll send it off to you. And I know there's several people at least that I know of who have had packs sent over to them in America, Canada and Australia, just that I know of, and New Zealand, I think. So yeah, they definitely do. Don't be put off. But I have said this so many times, and I know it's mentioned on the website as well, and people always miss it. So I thought I'll stop and say it again now. And if you do make an order, when you come to checkout, right at the bottom underneath your list of items at checkout, there's a bit that says promo code. That's where you put the code in if you've gone over a certain amount to get free postage. And there's a bit underneath that again that says note to seller or add a note or something like that. In there, put Arty Farty Annie Treat. And then they will put in a free little doodad with your order. It could be anything. It depends on what they've got and what you've ordered and stuff. So it's always nice to get a little fun extra, isn't it, for nothing? Let's get back to business. These are some of the silk pieces that I've pulled out. They don't use packaging anymore with their online orders. They all come in these beautiful reclaimed sari bags. I don't know how that piece got in there because that doesn't belong. I picked out all silks, and I picked out a combination of mostly reds and pinks, but I also want to throw in some kind of tealy blues and greens as well. So I've got a few of those. I just pulled out everything I could see that I think these came from somewhere else, but the rest came from Bazaar. So you can see the mixture of colours that I've got there going on. It kind of reflects, I think, these colours that I've got going on here. I've yet to decide what colour the background is going to be, but I think I've got a little while yet before I need to decide about that. I'm just really itching to make a start on this now. And then, just recently, I had some of the bougie scrap packs from Megan Crook textiles. And they get, the bougie scrap packs, you pay £3.50 for it. It's quite a small pack. I'll try and remember to link to the unboxing of that as well. They're quite small packs, but they're £3.50, and you pay postage as well under a certain amount. And then there was also, they're like these free scrap packs. You get 1 kilo or 2 kilo scrap packs, and I think I paid £7.50, but that's to cover post and packet. And I got loads of stuff in there. And I picked out all of this really shiny stuff and put to one side, because as soon as I saw it, I thought, aha, the Millefiori project. So I think I'm going to mix these, which are all synthetic and shiny and sparkly, in with these more natural silks, and I think the whole lot will fit together beautifully, probably on a black background. So that's what I'm going to be using. I'm also going to use this set of Suffolk puff makers. Oh no, actually, let's go back to the desk. It's easier to show you. So I'm going to be using this set of Suffolk puff makers. So these are just like, this is the clover one that I had already. I think I paid about £5 or even £6 for this. They're quite expensive. But when I saw Create and Craft with Christine using one, I just knew I had to have one. But then you want all the different sizes and they are expensive. So I searched and searched and I found this set. I will try and remember to leave a link to that as well. They're obviously a copy of the clover ones. The only difference, I mean, what is the difference? This is slightly transparent where this is solid. And I guess that can be handy when you're working out how you want your motif to be placed. But that would be the not gathered side of the puff. So I don't know how useful that is really. Anyway, that's the only difference I could tell. They work exactly the same. They're really nice to use. Now, I lost these temporarily, got in a strop, ordered another set. Next morning, these showed up. By that stage, I'd ordered another set, which has only just arrived because it went astray. And I chased it up with Amazon. They put me on to the seller, who straight away put another set in the post. And those arrived like a couple of days later, which is really good. So I'm going to keep this to one side. I'm going to do it as a giveaway at one of our upcoming live streams at some point. I think I'll keep it for when I hit the next 1,000 subscriber mark. Keep it for something special because it's quite a nice prize. Bear that in mind. I don't do big announcements when I'm going to do giveaways these days because we got scammed, or rather other people got scammed because of doing giveaways and letting people enter before the event and all of that. So I don't do it anymore. I just sort of do a fairly impromptu. I announce it on the day, and if you're at the live stream, you got a chance of winning. It's annoying, but I don't know what else to do to keep everybody safe really. A couple of people did click on a link that asked them for their bank details and did give their bank details, which I would never ever, if you've won a prize from me, I'm just going to send it to you. Why would I ask you for bank details? I will never ask you for money for postage or anything like that. So if you ever do win from me, you'll know, because you'll hear your name announced during the live, and I'll leave you to contact me by email. There's one other thing I've got that is, as far as I know, fairly unique, and this is what my son Tom has printed for me. So you'll know Tom as TTK if you're in our Discord. He's got a 3D printer, and we were talking about this project, and he has printed me off these to add into the mix and have a little play with. So he has 3D printed me a whole load of these plastic circles, and I can split these off into thicker or thinner circles like this, which I can use to create some of the different effects that I've just been making notes about now. So I can put them underneath layers of, between layers of fabric and stitch over them. I can create Dorset buttons around them. I can put them inside Suffolk puffs. Pick one that's slightly larger than the Suffolk puff should be, so that I can pull it up to a nice even circle, but it will leave the centre open. There's all sorts of ways I think I'm going to be able to play with these. I can also layer up. He's done me all different sizes, so I can layer up the different sizes. I have already tried one Dorset button, and this is the first Dorset button I've done in years, so I'm really pleased with how it came out. I used almost a whole skein of embroidery floss on that, but I'm really happy with it. And I did a technique that I kind of made up as I went along. I'm sure it is a technique, but I just sort of made it up. For this layer of pink, I went between the threads of the spoke, so that one of the threads comes over the top of the pink to create this sort of little window that you can see through, which I really like the look of. I'm imagining that kind of layered against other colours with all the other kinds of circles that I've got in mind. It's just going to be this, I'm so excited about this. So I've got all of these ones. There's some narrower ones here as well. So I have got a lot of experimenting to do here. Now, if you wanted to have a go at any of the techniques that I'm going to be trying as I go along with these, I think you could substitute thin plastic curtain rings. It won't be, quite the same effect, but I think it would work. I might say, let's see. Hopefully, we might be able to get Tom to do a set of these to go with this for whoever wins this. I mean, that would be a lovely prize to do that all together. that is a little kind of glimpse of everything I'm going to be using, and a bit of an idea of what my plans are. I do need to think about the background, but I thought I'll have a go just starting to make a few circles first in different ways, so that I've got a few to put together and try against different backgrounds just to see how I feel. I want to do a few different ones in different sizes. I'm fairly certain I'm going to want them all different sizes, but we'll see. I did have the idea of just making all different sizes of Suffolk puffs and Dorset buttons and stitching them together, kind of a little bit like the idea of the way the old-fashioned Suffolk puff quilts used to be made, where they just stitched them together, put them together like that, stitch across there, then put another two and stitch across there and there, so they kind of all form one piece, but you've got the little apertures in between. And I thought that might be nice because it would sort of emulate the look of the Millefiori beads when they're in clear glass, so you'd be able to see through. But I would then I would have to work just on the Suffolk puffs and Dorset buttons, because it would have to be things that would look all right from back and front, and that would be substantial enough to stand up by themselves. But I could do some of the other embroidery ideas embroidering onto the Suffolk puffs. And that was one of the reasons that this idea came about, because if I use this in effect like a tiny embroidery hoop within the Suffolk puff, I can then stitch into it. Trouble is, for a start, I'm not very good at keeping the back of my embroidery tidy, and in the end I just decided it was too limited, and also because I want to be able to make something useful out of it at the end. I want a fairly sturdy piece at the end that I can actually use as a bag. I mean, I'd still be careful with it. It's going to be something I hope really special, and I ain't going to be chucking it in the washing machine or anything, but it needs to be reasonably sturdy. So I think I'm going to be having to do it on a background fabric, but I don't know yet whether I've got a nice piece of a deep pink that I thought about. I might also decide to prefer white or off-white or black, and I've got kind of scrap pieces of all those that I can utilise. So I want to make enough circles to just try a few against different backgrounds to see how I feel, and then once I've got it on a background piece, I can then kind of stitch more into the background as well, and then it will probably have a very backing piece right at the end as well. So that's my plan. What do you think? I'm so excited to get started on this. I'm going to stop recording for a minute, sort out this mess I've just made, and I'll be back. I don't believe it, I've just been wittering on for 5 minutes and forgot to press record again. So now I'm going to have to try and remember everything I just told you. Okay, so I've picked a piece of fabric, which I've placed it into my Suffolk puff maker. I'll show you this one with a different piece of fabric. So let's imagine I was doing it with this one. Oh, I can't remember everything I said now. So I'm going to put my fabric in there like that, just leave a little bit of surplus around the outside. The idea is that I'm going to line up these lines that you see imprinted in the disc with these nodules around the outside like that, and if I do that, I know that the holes will all line up nicely. So I put my fabric inside, clipped them together, and then just trimmed it all around, just leaving a little bit. You don't need much, probably don't even need as much as I've got there. I've got this really pretty kind of tealy blue coloured silk here, and the idea is that I'm going to leave it slightly open so that this can show from the inside. I've got one of these rings out to perhaps have a go with in a minute. I'm just going to make this up as I go along. I've also dug out some sheer fabrics I found while I was tidying up. Some of these I've had knocking around for ages. It would be really nice to find a nice useful. I knew they'd come in good for something. Look at these beautiful crepes here, lovely sheer organzas. This one's got a twinkle in it. This one's sort of got that iridescence. Yeah, love these. And this one I've had this since I used it to make a fancy dress costume when I was about 29 years old. So that's about 35 years ago since I've been hoarding that. Couldn't find any gold, but that's fine. I might do another Dorset ring in a minute, or I might layer one up with this. I've got a few different ideas. I'm just going to make it up as I go along and just enjoy the process of this. I think it's going to be quite, some of it will be quite repetitive. I love making Suffolk puffs. I will need to make a lot of them for this, but I just will find that whole process quite relaxing. At the same time, I will have a chance to play with lots of colours and stitches, so it'll be really creative as well. So it's going to be a real relaxing, mindful kind of project. So I did show how I started how I started this off. So where I started there. So I come up from this side, I made a knot and a little double stitch, and then I've come up here and gone and then gone across to there. You don't want your thread to go between here, because if you do that, the two pieces won't come apart when you want them to. So let me show you I'll carry on here and then I can show you as I go along. So I'm turning this edge under as I go. Obviously you can make these without a gadget. I made them for years without a gadget. This does make it easier to get consistent results. And things that, like turning, the turn under, I always used to find a little bit awkward doing it without the gadget. This makes it so easy. So I've come up there at one corner of the little mouth, and I'm going back down the other corner. And then I'm going across here, and I'm coming up again at the next one, and then going down there. So easy. It's just so relaxing. I could take a whole pile of these down to do. And I know there's so many of us who get hooked on making Suffolk puffs, are always looking for new ways to use them. Well, this will keep me going for ages. So my thread is carrying across the back here. Yeah, so you can see the thread carries along the back here. So I'm just going to keep on working my way around here. So it'll just take me a couple of minutes to do, and then I will be back. Well, I remembered to switch on the camera this time, so I've just come back to where I started. I seem to have managed to gather that up there, don't know why. So I'm just going to overlap by a stitch or two. Finish with my thread here towards me on the disc side, and now, because I haven't got the thread running across these gaps here on the other side, these will just easily pop apart, and I can just ease those edges off to remove the disc. And there's my Suffolk puff pretty much done. And what you would do normally is just gather all these edges up, make sure the turning goes to the inside as you go. That's why it's so addictive to do. It's so cute. It's such a lovely way to use quite tiny scraps, and they're just easy and quick. It's addictive. And that, if I just pulled that up and fastened it off now, is, your traditional Suffolk puff. And that should have, I was using this size, so that should be 4.5 centimetres. Let's see how accurate that was. Pretty spot on. But I don't want to pull it up completely. I'm going to do things a little bit differently, so I'm just going to ease that apart again. And one thing I thought I would try with these plastic rings is to put one of these inside so that I can pull the Suffolk puff up, so I get a nice uniform circle, but it's not fully closed. So let's see if this is, yeah, see, so I would do that. I mean, I could do that anyway, just leave it slightly open, definitely. But if I do it with one of these rings inside, I'm going to get that perfect circle shape, which I quite like. Is that a big enough hole, or do I want to try smaller? If I really get on with these, I'm going to have to get Tom to make me some more. I think it's quite a fiddle doing it on the 3D printer, but if he could make a whole lot up, I could put them in my Etsy shop, couldn't I? Oh, that's a smaller. Oh no, wait a minute, I wanted bigger, didn't I? Not smaller. Let's just try it. So if I put that bigger one in and pull it up, that would leave quite a big hole in the middle. I think I was going to do that. I might want to use a thread that actually matches the fabric. I'm not sure. So many ideas to play with. So if I put this inside and I want this coordinating sparkle to be on the inside, I just think I'm going to have so much fun at finding all the different ways that I can make stitched circles. So many different ways. Really going to enjoy this whole process, I think. I'm just going to be playing and stitching. If you wanted to try something like this and you don't have some of my lovely plastic discs, you could try it with just a piece of cardboard or a plastic curtain ring. A double stitch here, back through the loop to make a knot, just to start me off. Now if this was bigger I'd gather it all the way around, but I don't think it is, and this edge isn't going to show, it will be inside the Suffolk puff. So what I'm going to do now, I've never done this before, I'm literally making this up as I go along. I'm going to just do a kind of an overstitch all the way around this ring to just hold this fabric where I want it to be. Then I can tuck it inside there and I know it will hold it nice and neatly. And once I put this, and once I've tacked it into place with this, I think it would be quite fun, I might try that as well, go back over with an embroidery floss, contrasting or coordinating, and do a blanket stitch all around it. And that would be another way of doing a circle. So I've already, by playing around with this, discovered another idea to try. I've got my kind of colours pulled out, although I haven't decided about the background yet. I know I want it to be all kinds of circles of all different sizes. I know that the back of them isn't going to be seen. I've decided that now. Other than that, I'm just going to play with all of these beautiful fabrics that I've pulled out. I'll also put myself together a little bag of coordinating threads. I can definitely, one thing I forgot to mention just now, and I need to write it on my list, got some of my Shisha mirrors in there. These all came out of the Bazaar scrap packs. That did as well. You get odd bits like this. These can all go in as well. And then there were some sequins too, solid sequins, and these sort of ring shaped ones which I can stitch on and then stitch over. So I need to jot that down in a minute so I don't forget. And also beads, lots of beads here, so I will add lots. I've got so many beautiful sparkling beads, and that will fit really nicely with the whole idea. Yeah, I'm just gonna get in the zone. I think a circular shape is such a lovely shape to play with. What I haven't dug out yet is any buttons. I'll see what buttons I got that will fit in. Okay, so that's a really messy job, but all I wanted to do was just hold that across the ring, so you can see what a mess that is, but that's enough. As I say, I could run some decorative blanket stitching around there, and I definitely will have a go at making some circles just like that with these on their own as well. I think that would be lovely, but for the purposes of this this little motif, that is all I need. Pop that inside there, re-thread my needle. Yeah, I could add beads all around the edge of it, but there's just so many things. I just think there are so many possibilities. I can still stitch into it as well, you know, to elaborate further on it. You can see how, you know, when I was toying with the idea of making it kind of a double-sided piece where you could actually see through the gaps in between, it would work really well with Suffolk puffs. But if they're not kind of, you know, not all the same size like a traditional Suffolk puff quilt would be, so we'll just put all of these different sizes together. Can you sort of see where I'm going already? It's already starting to have little, you know, the vibes I was after. So I think what I'm going to do, I think I've made this video long enough for today. I'm going to fasten that off now, so that's finished. Let's just do that I guess that's my very first, or the beginnings of my very first Millefiori motif. And you can just, you can just see the possibilities. Actually layering up some of these. I might end up using Suffolk puffs quite a bit as the base, because I think if I put one of these little plastic circles inside, like I have there, it will, like I was saying earlier on, it will create in a way like a mini embroidery hoop that stays inside. So if I wanted to do, say I wanted to do Shisha work on this individual circle, I can do my Shisha work on there, just leave the frame inside, do quite elaborate Shisha work. I just think it's going to be a lovely way to do it. In fact, I think that's what I want to try next. Yeah. But I think for today that's enough for my first video. I just wanted to give you some idea of what I'm planning, what I'm putting together, what my thoughts are for this project. I've had it in my mind for a long time. I can't stop filling now. I'm imagining this with beads all around the outside. I'll tell you what, to give the idea of beads, let's just imagine these are beads. Yeah. It's just, yeah. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this. I think I've said that about 5,000 times. Just wondering if I could make some of these as well with some of the ribbons that I've got. Make some of these little pleated pieces. Be quite nice, wouldn't it? It'd be a good way of using up that ribbon. This kind of ribbon that I don't like using much as ribbon, but it does work quite well with this because it's got sort of stiffness to it. Thank you very much for joining me. What do you think about the idea? As always, it's a bit hard to put across what's in my mind, but then having said that, what's in my mind might completely change as I go along. I think I'm going to look on this as a really chilled, mindful kind of a project to take my time and enjoy. It will give me a chance to do lots of experimentation with combining colours and textures and different kinds of stitches, and also a great way to use up the silk scraps from Bazaar and the bougie scraps from Megan Crook as well. They'll combine really nicely together, which I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting to use them in the same project when I first got them. When I first got the Megan Crook ones through, I thought, well, I like these, but they're completely different. I won't use them as often, and I can't imagine using them with the Bazaar stuff, but actually I think these will work really nicely together for this particular project. Anyway, enough waffling on. Thanks ever so much for joining me, and I will see you again really soon when I'll have a go with a few more different kinds of circles and come back and show you 2 or 3 more ideas next time. Thanks again, and I'll see you really soon.